Hello, today I'm here finally doing my 2024 wrap up and 2025 goals. I won't be going into too much detail about anything because I don't think it's going to be like a massive sort of wrap up. It's just to briefly mention how many which star ratings I had and what genres I read, how many books I read, and just my overall thoughts on 2024 reading. And I do have a few goals in 2025. Originally I thought about splitting the two videos, but then I thought I'll just combine them. So, year of 2024 was really good, and I've got again my trusty old little book. I've had this since 2014, so I've been writing books in it since 2014, all the books I've been reading, and it's great. Speaking of that, by the way, 2024 turns out to be the second best reading year of my life. So I read 78 books, and the bestest I think before was 82 or 83, and that was 2016. Before then it was below 78. So this has been my second best reading year ever. And I feel like this year I wasn't actually concentrating on quantity, I was concentrating on quality, which led me to reading more good books. And because I was enjoying reading so much more, because I was focusing on the quality, quantity also clearly increased, which is great. I was not expecting to read that many books in 2024, but it happened, and I'm very pleased. And I was actually quite shocked when I looked at my stats and thought that this has been the second best reading year of my life. That's quite big because, like I said, I have been actively reading from 2014. As in, I was still reading when I was a child and I was a teenager, but firstly I was never writing it down, and most of it was for school, and like some other books for pleasure, like Twilight, Harry Potter, and some other books in between. I can't remember because it was more than 10 years ago now, but I was always reading, so it's not like I just sort of got back into it. I just started more actively reading in 2014. But yes, so I did also have 4 rereads as well. I reread The Beautiful, I reread The Whole Truth by Kara Hunter, I reread Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and the Chocolat by John Harris, so I reread those. In terms of 5 stars, I only had 6 5 stars. That's not including the rereads because I don't include them in the ratings when I'm talking about the books I read in the year. So I didn't have any 4.5 stars. I had 38 4 stars, which is not bad. 3.5 stars I only had 5 off. 3 stars I had 15. 2.5 stars is 1 book, 2 stars is 5 books, and I did have 18 DNFs. So yeah, comparing to last year, although last year I read like 53 books, so it's a lot smaller than this year, but I feel like the quality has improved, because last year I only had 3 5 stars, and in terms of 4 stars, 26. This year is 38, a lot more. And DNFs in 2023 I had 8. This year I had 18. Well, not this year, in 2024. So in terms of genres read, last year in 2024 I dabbled a little bit in a couple of different genres, I would say, that I haven't quite dabbled in before, and I think it's only 2. So the new genres are actually romance, and I've read 4 of those. I did read 1 cozy mystery, but it wasn't like a new genre for me. I've always read it. I just realised it's not quite for me, so I haven't reached out to that. I read 1 retelling of a Bluebeard. Then I had like a cozy fantasy romance mix of different things with a bit of murder mystery, and I read 2 of those, but that is from 1 series. It was from the Fade Island series. I just couldn't quite fit it anywhere else because it's sort of a mix of genres, a bit of romance, a little bit of witchy stuff, a little bit of everything, so I just put it in its own category. I only read 2 historical fiction this year, and it used to be my big genre back in the day. I used to read, I think, the most amount of historical fiction. This time it's only two, like I said, but if you watch my favourite books of the year, you would know that one of those has become my favourite book of 2024. The, oh my god, The Tatters of Auschwitz is my favourite book of 2024, and it is a historical fiction set in the period of World War II. So clearly I still enjoy historical fiction. But yeah, I only read one non-fiction. So last year I read 4 non-fiction, which is great. So I think I do need to try and read a little bit more non-fiction in 2025, because I've got a few left, especially most of it is crime related. Unexplained Deaths and How to Solve Crime and Crime Casebook. But I do have a couple of other ones. I've got one about planets, one about dinosaurs, and one Tom Felton's book still. So I've got those, which I want to get to, obviously. Then I've put down like magical realism / apparently it's called healing fiction. The ones that have got a bit of like magic to it is 3 books I read. I really am into them. Science fiction I read 3 books, and I think last year I didn't read any sci-fi, so but spoiler for 2025, I think I'm in the mood for sci-fi, and I'm currently reading a sci-fi novel, so I think that will be probably rectified and I'll read a lot more in 2025. General fiction, including some of that healing fiction, but the ones that don't have any magic in it, that is 6 books, which is decent. Fantasy is 8. I'm pretty sure last year I read a lot more fantasy. Apparently last year I read 4 fantasy novels, this year I read 8. So I guess I'm more back into fantasy. Last year I was really off it, but I think it depends on the kind of fantasy, especially cozy fantasy. I enjoy more. I don't enjoy high stakes, like, what's it called? Epic fantasy. I don't think that's for me. But like light fantasy, or a bit like gothic, a bit darker fantasy, and cozy fantasy is my thing. So I feel like I can't say I don't enjoy fantasy, it's just different types of fantasy that I do enjoy and reach out to. I've got the biggest amount. I've separated it into 2 categories this time. So I think last year I've combined like police procedurals, thriller and crime fiction into 1. Thriller and crime fiction I had separately last year, and last year I had 5 thrillers, 9 crime fiction. So altogether, if you combine them, it's what, 16? So this year I've separated police procedural into a separate thing, and I've read 5 of those. A couple of them I think were rereads, or one of them. And then thriller / crime fiction is 24. So that is by far my most read genre in 2024. No wonder I'm feeling a little bit burnt out from that. So altogether, police related things, like crime related things, is 29 books in 2024. That is a massive amount. That is mostly of what I read in 2024. That's crazy. Then I've got like a middle grade section. I know it's a genre. It's not a genre, it's more of a age group. But I feel like middle grade on its own has like its own genre almost. Doesn't matter if it's fantasy, doesn't matter if it's horror. It's sort of, do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, to me personally, I feel like it's its own genre. So I read 5 middle grade books this year, and I think I used to be reading a little bit more than that. I've definitely gone off it. I only reach for like horror or darker fantasy or something like that. And then also horror / gothic novels I read 6 of. So I think last year, I don't seem to have horror last year. Okay, maybe I'm mixing it with a different one. But yeah, I read a little bit more than I read last year. So that is it in terms of genres. Like I said, I would think I've had a good year, 2024. I feel like I fell in love in reading so much more than I have felt for a long time. Like, to me, sometimes when I finish the book, and don't have currently reading on the go, like if I finish the book in the evening and then I wake up next morning feeling like I'm on the edge of a cliff because I don't have a current read. Does that make sense? Does anyone else experience it? It's just weird. So I feel like I need to always have a currently reading on the go. When I'm waking up in the morning, I don't like the feeling of not having a book on the go. It just stresses me out. And I feel like I spend a lot more time reading, And quite frankly, in previous years I felt like I was almost forcing myself sometimes to read, and hence less quality and less quantity, as in worse quality. But this year I was not forcing myself. I would DNF the books I wasn't interested in, I would mood read a lot more, and clearly quality wise and quantity wise, all of that just helped. So I want to bring that into 2025 as well. Just that sort of energy, that attitude, that love for reading, for the act of reading. Absolutely love it. Just sitting there for hours. And I notice as well, I get so much more into books if I'm reading it for like a longer period of time. If I'm reading for a couple of hours or more and stuff like that, I feel like I'm just so much more into it and enjoy it a lot more. So there we go. So let's just go into 2025 goals, which is not a lot and they're a little bit generic, but I still want to go through them. I've got a new notebook for 2025 because my previous one finished. As in, I've still got my other one, but this one is just for the books that I have read. This one is just for more generic bookish things, like books I bought in the year or some video ideas or something else. In 2025, just scared my cat by doing that, my reading goal, or like the main goal, is 66. So I have decided to lower it comparing to what I read in 2024, but that's because that sort of goes into my next one. So my next goal is to read mostly from my TBR and buy a lot less books. It's like two separate goals, because I've got a TBR of, I think, altogether about 400 books, I think. And I have separated into 8 separate TBRs. Again, I will probably film a video at some point on that. And I don't want to quite repeat myself, but I will actually. I've got my main TBR, which is on this shelf. Now it's mostly, no, now it is the books that I bought between 2023 and 2024. So it's 2 years worth of books, and now some of 2025. So that's my TBR number 1. Number 2 is series and non-fiction. I think there's only 10 non-fiction, but a lot more of series. So next in the series, and see other books that I own from the series but I can't get to, if that makes sense, because I need to read the one before them. But they're not first in the series, those up there. The first in the series are in the main TBR. Once I read that one and then go into the second one, that second one that will move up to series and non-fiction TBR. Hope I'm making sense. My third TBR is wrapped up books, and those are the books that I have had for a good few years. So the idea is just occasionally, every now and then, pick one up from there and read it. My TBR number 4 is unhauled TBR, and that is the books that I've selected. I thought I wanted to DNF, but then thought actually I'm going to keep them. So the idea again is just to pick one up every now and then, or even use a random number generator on them, or I've got a TBR jar for every single TBR as well, just because sometimes I like the chaos of it. Sometimes I prefer to use a random number generator to choose from which TBR to choose a book from. And then sometimes, quite often, I would use a TBR jar as well, so that the choice is completely out of my hand. So number 3 is that. Number 4. Number 5 is my temporary saves, which is 11 books currently, and the idea is that I need to read them or unhaul them before the end of May this year. So now I've got 5 months to go through them. My TBR number 6 is a box of stories, because I have been subscribed to them. I have had a bad experience with them recently though, but I won't talk about it in this video. So I will be unsubscribing from them. But I've got quite a few of different genres in there, like mystery, which I'm more interested in. It was the most recent box. There's some horror, and there is some sci-fi and some fantasy as well. My number 7 TBR is this, which is my TBR Veterans, by the way, which is my recent edition, but that has got 50 books now in there. So 50 books. But because I have created this TBR, I feel like I'm drawn to it anyway, because it's sort of new and it's focusing my attention on the books that I bought ages ago, prior to 2023, so I want to now read them, which kind of works out really well. And my TBR number 8 is Kindle TBR, which I think is like 90 something books. So even that is a lot. But that's why my reading goal is now 66 less than what I have read now, because I fully expect there's going to be a lot of DNFs and there's going to be potentially a lot of lower ratings, but I expect there'll be loads of DNFs because I want to clear out my TBR as much as I can in 2025, because I don't have that much space left on my shelves. Plus, because I've got so many that I bought years ago, haven't read, I need to read it because why do I have all of these books, right? So yes, that's the idea. But yeah, like I said, I'm expecting to have quite a few DNFs, but hopefully I'll discover hidden gems on like this TBR here or everywhere else. I'm hoping that by DNFing loads I'll find hidden gems and will still enjoy my reading. So there is that. My last goal was to reduce all TBRs, so just try and work on every single TBR, especially obviously temporary saves because they need to go before the end of May of 2025. So that would be quite interesting. I'm excited for 2025, and I've decided also in terms of buying less books, I think I'm not going to restrict myself and not buy any books because that's not going to happen. But I quite often would buy on impulse, so I would order something on Amazon or just get a random book when I see it. So this time, unless I'm specifically going to like Waterstones or some other specific bookshop and do book shopping, that's different because I don't really do that very often. But in terms of ordering things, I can only do it if I have been thinking a book for a while, or I've actually thought about it, getting it a few times, and I'm still interested in, because sometimes it happens I'd order it and then later on I'm not actually that interested in it. So that's happened before. And even those ebooks that I get daily email from Amazon saying these books are an offer for £1, that's the worst because I always end up buying something. But this time I'll only get it if I actually really want to read the book. And yeah, so hopefully that will help me reduce it. So yes, I don't think there's anything else goals wise. Yeah, just literally go through my TBR as much as I can, do again mood reading, use random number generator because I've actually quite enjoyed just using random number generator to choose which TBR to choose from, and then also use the TBR jar for that TBR, pick something out unless I want to pick up something from there. What I also might do is, because my main TBR is like 6 shelves, so I could do random number generator from 1 to 6 to choose from which shelf to pick from, and then I go to that shelf and pick up 1 or like 3 books and read them. And I think I might do more reading vlogs, themed reading vlogs in 2025, because I've wanted to do this for a while. Like one idea I have is reading my mystery crime books from a box of stories from most recent box, or like reading, I don't know, some wrapped up books, or like I said, even this, pick up 2 to 3 books from a shelf and read those. I think that'll be quite good fun, hopefully. But yes, I don't think I have any more goals. I think I've mentioned everything. But yes, hopefully I'll get into 2025 with the same energy I had in 2024, being absolutely in love with reading. So that'll be absolutely great. Please let me know in the comments if you have any goals at all for 2025 and anything else you'd like to say. I would always like to hear from you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!